In my first video, I demonstrated how to roll a dampened sheet of cut paper strips on 2 cement blocks in preparation for making a paper thread for paper cloth that is called Shifu in Japan. Since there seems to be a lot of interest in the process of making a paper thread, I decided to do this video and show all the steps involved. I first learned the technique of paper thread making from the well-known Japanese Shifu maker, Sadako Sakurai. Japanese handmade paper is primarily made from the fiber of the paper mulberry tree. The fiber is long and makes a very strong paper, and therefore makes a very good thread. This is the inner bark of the paper mulberry tree, with the 2 outer barks removed. And there are several steps involved in preparing the fiber to be made into paper. And it is the technique of the Japanese paper making that makes their paper so ideal for making a paper thread. I have here a sheet of Japanese handmade paper. It is made from paper mulberry. It measures approximately 24 by 36 inches or 60 by 91.5 centimeters. This is the type of paper that would be used to be made into a thread. And what the Shifu makers look for in their paper is a thin sheet like this one that has a crisp sound and free of impurities. Because this is a large size of paper, it is first folded prior to cutting. So the paper is folded in half lengthwise like this. Then the ends are folded back over themselves, leaving a 1 inch or a 2.5 centimeter overlap. Now you have a long skinny paper that is folded in half again, but this way. And I'm going to fold it one more time and make a quarter sheet. And it is a quarter sheet that will be cut. And I'm making a nice crease here so I can see where to cut up to. This is the type of cutting board that Sadako Sakurai uses to cut her papers on. It has measurements on both sides, and they aid in helping to cut the thin paper strips such as 2, 3, 4, and 6 millimeter widths. The wooden board that the paper is cut on comes out like this and can easily be replaced when needed. So now I'm going to get ready to cut the paper. I put it onto the board. I'm going to be using this ruler and this sharp blade, which is an X-Acto knife, to cut the paper with. And this stone is going to be placed on the paper, and it's going to act like a weight to keep the paper from shifting while cutting. Since this edge is uneven, I'm going to cut that first to get a nice, even, straight line. And when cutting, the inside folded paper needs to be cut, so you want to make sure that you go past that line. But you don't want to cut too far close to the edge. You want to leave enough uncut paper for during the rolling process to make sure the paper strips stay intact. I'm going to cut the paper, the end off first now. And now I'm going to start to cut the thin paper strips. So after cutting the quarter sheet, you will end up with a sheet that looks like this. And from the large sheet, you will have 4 of these. The paper is opened up, and next they are dampened. And Sadako Sakurai will dampen up to 40 of these sheets at a time between 2 damp towels covered with plastic to retain the moisture. The papers are dampened overnight or for approximately 8 hours. And when finished, the paper is then ready to be rolled on 2 cement blocks. For those who have not seen my first video, I'm going to do a shortened version of the rolling. I have some damp paper that I put between plastic and the cotton towels. So I'm going to go over to my cement blocks now to roll the paper. Since the paper is much more vulnerable when wet, it is very important to be gentle while rolling in the beginning. The uncut ends are gathered first. And with the palm of my hands, I'm going to start rolling from the outside and work my way in. And as the paper dries, more pressure can be applied. This process takes several minutes, and to get a really nice rolled paper strip, maybe about 7 to 10 minutes long. I'm not going to take that much time to roll this, and I actually have a finished rolled sheet to show, and it looks like this. So the cut paper now is thread-like for the first time. The next step is to make a continuous thread. To do that, one end is made into loops. 2 threads are gathered at a time, and the uncut end is torn with the 2 threads attached. Then with the thumb and the forefinger, the paper is rolled over itself to form what is called the joint or seed. And it is this seed that is the distinctive characteristic of Shifu. So now I have a loop, and I would go across until I have formed all loops. So I'm going to show what it looks like after the loops have been formed. And then the other end is done. Instead of making more loops, this time one long continuous strand of thread is made. To start, I will take 1 thread and I will tear the end like this. Then I will take 2 threads, like I did on the other end, tear the paper with the threads attached, roll the paper over itself to form the seed. And now, as you can see, I'm starting to get a continuous thread. And this thread would be coiled into a basket in preparation for spinning. I have a basket here with paper thread already in it, ready to be spun. And the little dots are red beans, and they are there to help keep the paper threads in the basket during the spinning process. The Shifu makers in Japan spin or twist their paper thread for 2 main reasons. The first is to get a tighter twist and an even twist to the thread, and secondly, to strengthen the paper thread. I'm going to be using a Japanese spinning wheel. Other spinning devices work, such as a bobbin winder, a drop spindle, an Indian spinning wheel called a charka, and is similar to a Japanese spinning wheel. I have here a 2 millimeter paper thread that I'm going to spin, and I'm going to twist the wheel approximately 8 times for this size of thread. And the Shifu makers are very particular about the twist of the thread, and they do not want to either under-twist or over-twist the thread. So here we go, and I hope that my spinning wheel works. It is an old one, so it has a personality of its own. So I'm going to check the thread to make sure it's a nice twist. Then I'm going to raise it up vertically and wrap onto the spool. So I would keep doing that until I get enough thread on the spool. And when I take it off, this thread is equivalent to a sheet that was cut and rolled. The next step is to set the twist. And to do that, there are 2 ways. One is to take the spool with the thread on it and steam it up to 30 minutes or immerse the spool into boiling water for 10 seconds. So now the thread is ready to be woven into cloth if left undyed. And if a color is desired, then the thread is taken off of the spool, made into a skein, and dyed at that time. Weaving with paper thread is similar to weaving with other natural fibers, but there is one big difference, and of course it is the joint or the seat. So the Shifu makers have to pay particular attention during the weaving process to make sure that the joint is placed evenly on the cloth. Traditionally in Japan, Shifu was made into clothing, and the contemporary Shifu makers today, such as Sadako Sakurai, also make Shifu for clothing, both traditional and Western. Therefore, it's important to be able to wash Shifu, and Shifu is washable, both by hand and by machine. I have an example of some Shifu cloth that I wove myself. This is a bolt of Shifu. It was woven with a fine cotton warp and a 2mm paper weft. It is very soft to the touch, and as you can see, it has a very nice drape to it. For example, this could be made into a top or a shirt. I have now finished my demonstration of the paper thread making process. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.